All right, I'd like to call the meeting to order. Can we have the Pledge of Allegiance, and it's going to be led by Councilor Balboni.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Mrs. Senator, can we get a roll call, please?
Okay. Councilor Ouellette? Councilor Pendleton?
Just got to give.
Present. Councilor Cordero? Here. Deputy Mayor Paterna?
Here.
Mayor Zimmerman?
Here.
Councilor Delnicki? Councilor Fitzgerald?
Here.
Councilor King?
Here.
Councilor Balboni?
Thank you. Item 4 is mayor's remarks. Under the comments tonight, I just wanted to let everybody know about my first Mayor's Day of Service. But before that, I wanted to thank the large number of volunteers that every day help make our town so special. You know, for example, this includes seniors that read to students in our elementary schools, our neighbors that coach youth sports teams, and all of our elected and appointed town leaders. Deputy Mayor Paterna started the Mayor's Day of Service in honor of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday when he was mayor in 2020. This year, in conjunction with the Hartford Bags of Love, we'll be serving and cleaning up after lunch and dinner at Cornerstone Shelter in Vernon on Monday, January 19th. In addition, we'll be collecting financial and non-perishable food donations. Food donations can be placed in the container outside this room when this building is open until Friday, January 16th. For more information on how to volunteer to serve and/or clean up after one of these 2 meals, please let me know or contact the Hartford Bags of Love at hartfordbagsoflove@gmail.com. Financial donations can be made online at www.hartfordbagsoflove.org. Thanks again to all the people in our town of all ages whose volunteer efforts make such an important difference in the lives of each of our families, friends, and neighbors. Okay, now we're up to item 5, which is adoption of the agenda. Deputy Mayor Paterna.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to move that we adopt the agenda with one modification. I'd like to suggest that we postpone the discussion of the rules, Town Council rules, until the next meeting. We've had a number of revisions, and I think we've just gotten an updated, revised document today. So a little extra time wouldn't hurt. We could bring this up at the next meeting.
Second.
All right, any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Mr. Mayor,
Aye.
Mr. Mayor,
Sorry. Attorney Corella?
I would respectfully suggest that you move item 12B to prior to section 11. You need to accept the resignation of Ms. Lewis before you appoint her to another position.
Right. And my second amendment is to move item 12B up to right after the public input.
Need my second?
Yes.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, passes unanimously. And thank you, Attorney Corella, for that help. We're up to item 6, communication reports from the town manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, in terms of our collector's report, I got a collector's report last week. This was dated December 31st, 2025. Comparing the 2023 grand list to 2024 grand list, overall collections for 2023 at this time of year were 62.66%. For this year, 2024 grand list, it's 64.92%. In terms of the sewer collection rate, prior year grand list was 100%. Current grand list is 99.74%. A couple more items just to bring to the council's attention as well as to the public. First of all, with the snow, I wanted to remind residents it's important that they shovel off their sidewalks after 24 hours. That's per town ordinance. That's really required to be done because we have students that use sidewalks to get to school. So it is an important thing, and it's an important part of being a resident in our community. So I'd ask that everybody remember to please shovel their sidewalks 24 hours after any snowstorm. As is customary with this time of year, myself as well as the town staff have started working on our town budget. I believe you have the budget calendar on your agenda tonight. The town staff have already started with your budget policy statement, so appreciate that, and that'll be moving forward. Additionally, as is customary for the last few years, we're also going to be looking at going out to the market for bonding. We're looking to have a sale sometime February 11th, I believe is the date that we chose today. We're probably going to be going for our rating sometime around January 28th. We're going to be looking to issue somewhere between $10 and $15 million. Lastly, I wanted to take the time to thank all the town employees who worked over the holidays. We had a lot of staff work over these holidays, from Public Works as well as the police department in particular, to make sure that our streets are safe, people are safe, and that everybody could enjoy their holiday in a good way. So I do want to pass along my appreciation to all of them and for all their hard work. And with that being said, I'd be happy to take any questions you have, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Maniscalco. Any questions for the town manager? Councilor King?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thanks you for your report, Mr. Maniscalco. There are a couple of things I was looking through. First, though, do we have any updates as it relates to the rules in regards to the splash pad? I haven't heard anything since we kind of put that together and had some questions about that.
Sure. So the policy setting body for the splash pad would be the Parks and Recreation Commission. I know that our Director of Parks and Recreation has had some conversations with them about that. I believe most likely moving forward, last I had heard, their plans were to not allow large groups, like field trips, for the use of the splash pad. I know there was some talk about and concern about possibly implementing fees. I believe that is not something that they're considering, if that's good at this point.
So do you have an idea when they're going to make that available? I don't know if that's something that we need to discuss, or...
Well, they're the policy setting body for the parks, so that it doesn't come to the town council at all.
Okay.
It's in their purview to do that. My understanding is it's already been posted on the town website that is their policy moving forward. There is signage at the splash pad as of last year to that effect, so I don't think there's too much more that needs to be done.
The other piece that we discussed the last time, or second to last time we were here, was Niederhofer Road. Do we have any updates in regards to the go-forward plan there?
You know, at this red hot moment, I don't. I would have to reach out to Mr. Stetson, and I can do that and get you something tomorrow.
Okay, awesome, thank you. In looking through your report, on page, actually, you know what, I'll skip that, it's more of an HR thing. As well as 5, because I'm assuming that the police are continuing to move forward. I saw on page 2 where they talked about they currently have 1 vacancy, which I assume is the same because it says civilian personnel summary.
Correct. We've been working on hiring and filling vacancies at the PD the last 2 or 3 weeks.
Okay.
Yeah.
So is that something that we need to put on the website at this particular point? Because
So
I don't see it on page 5.
So right, so the police actually advertise their positions through a different source.
Yep.
I believe it's policeapp.com. It's the source that's used by all police departments across the state. And I actually think they do dispatching as well through there. And it's a rather extensive application that people need to fill out and put through. So it's a different process and setup than, let's say, someone through Public Works or a administrative job. So that's why it's done through that separate format.
Okay. So then how would people know about it outside of us?
I think if you're interested in being a police officer, most people do find policeapp.com, is my understanding.
Okay.
That's the realm where people end up in, and it actually is kind of like a clearinghouse for all police jobs in the state.
So even on the civilian side?
Yes.
Okay, okay. Page 6 for my counselors. I'm wondering, it talks about library window glazing unit replacements under Mr. Major's comments. And one of the statements, it says, as I have stated in the past, many of the seals on the windows have failed and now show signs of moisture between glass panes. I have replaced about 12 glazing units thus far, probably another 10 or so to replace that are showing signs of moisture, blah, 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 blah. Is this a warranty thing? I'm just trying to figure out the money.
No, I mean, those windows are original to the building, and that building was maybe early 90s, maybe late 80s, I think.
Okay.
So at this point, we're probably beyond warranty issues.
So is it something that, say, for example, if we had somebody else fix it, or is it always going to fall on our employees to fix it? So that at least it can be warranted if something goes wrong.
Well, sure. So if it was a newer construction, something that was newly built, there would be a warranty for a period of time. Since that building is not newly built at this point, it's one of those things. Now, if we were to go in and do a complete window replacement like we did for the town hall, the windows in the town hall currently are probably under a warranty for a period of time for the seals that are there. That's going to eventually expire, as with most warranties, in which case our staff would be required to then replace them.
Okay. Again, for my fellow counselors, on page 6, I'm looking at where it talks about other projects at the bottom right, where it talks about transfer enterprises is scheduled to be back on site Friday, December 18th, blah, blah, blah. Overly delayed. Do we know, is it done at this particular point, or why it was delayed? Because obviously this was, you know, December 18th was a little bit ago.
Right, so my understanding is there were some issues with the fit of the furniture in the space. Like, they had measured it, and when it got on site, it didn't actually fit in the spaces, so.
Moving on for my fellow counselors, page 7, where it talks about phone systems moving to the cloud, where there's not really an update. I'm wondering, has Mr. Major reached out to other towns? At the bottom, it says, I'm currently soliciting pricing from AT&T as well as their authorized providers, blah, 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 blah. Have we reached out to other towns to see how they've done it? Because the way it reads is that we're not really sure how it's going to work. Do you know if Mr. Majors?
I'm not aware if he's reached out to other towns or not, but I can certainly ask him.
155 Griffin Road structure demolition and cleanup. It says 3 sentences up. If and when the committee grants permission, what are they waiting on?
So they, for 155 Griffin, there's a demolition delay that's required due to the age of the structures that are there. So it's got to, they have to put in the application. It sits for, I want to say it's like 30 days, something to that effect. It gives people the opportunity to go document the building, say it's got this architectural character, that architectural character, and then once that's passed, then they can move forward with actual demolition.
Okay. For my fellow counselors, again on page 7, where it talks about other notable but less visible work, the 1, 2, 3 down, it says I'll be going back out to bid for HVAC contracted services in January. I'm wondering, it doesn't really say where that's for, so is that for all facilities, all town facilities that he's going back out to bid?
I'm gonna guess off the cuff, it's probably for all facilities. It's his on-call HVAC, but I can find out for you as well.
And 2 more things on page 8 for my fellow counselors, where it talks about reconstruction of Governor's Highway Phase 2. They have proposed traffic calming measures to be part of the design. Do we know what type of calming measures we're looking at or talking about?
I do not at this time, but I can follow up.
Okay. And the last thing, well, actually two more things for my fellow counselors on page 9, right above Farnham Estates Road and drainage improvements, where it talks about they're going through their process to evaluate the need and cost of a new water main along this roadway. I think if anybody has been reading the news, especially what happened down in Waterbury most recently, where those mains broke and busted and all those types of things, do we have, what is the timing and how are we looking in regards to all of our different water mains? Because that shut down the city for a little while in Waterbury.
Sure. So, you know, the town of South Windsor is a little different in that we have 2 private water companies that provide services to our communities, both MDC and Connecticut Water. It's their responsibility to ensure those mains are operational and functioning. In the event we do have a water main break, that is their bailiwick and their job. I've actually been on site for a water main break in town. It was fixed within, I want to say, 6 hours at the most. They're pretty quick and handy at doing it. I think part of the problem with Waterbury's is that it was not visible to them, and they were not maintaining and keeping an eye on water usage, whereas both MDC and Connecticut Water track that very closely. So in the event that there is a water main break or some type of leak, all of a sudden that does raise awareness to them because they see the usage spike significantly. We have had a few locations in town, not in the winter, but throughout the community, where there were some concerns about possible leaks in pipes, and they came out, they did some digging and investigation, they found the leaks, repaired them, and moved on. So.
Okay, and finally, to you, Mr. Mayor, I just want to say, after reading this, and obviously everybody can tell I went through this thing, I want to congratulate Mr. Stetson. One of the things that, at least during my experience on the council, we always talk about how can we make more with less, or do more with less. And Mr. Stetson, everywhere that I'm reading, he has a commitment to fund from CT DOT, through the LoCIP program. He's done a phenomenal job. That's throughout all of this, and hopefully all of our departments, because I don't know if this happens or not. I'm sure that you meet with all of your people, but sometimes in different towns, department heads like to look better than another, and they don't share the same playbook. I'm not suggesting that happens here, but what I am suggesting is that hopefully all of our other departments will go to that same playbook and say, hey, how did you get your funds? Is there a template that I can use to send out? Because throughout this whole Public Works Department, he's received millions of dollars. And so I just wanted to say congratulations to him and his team. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councilor Balboni, are you okay? Was one of the ones that was already covered?
Yeah, he's got it.
Okay. Councilor Lett.
So 2 items, just to follow on to the phone system and the POTS line. Is there any way we can possibly partner with another town? The old PBX that's premise-based here right now, we couldn't partner with another town. If it's cloud-based, is there any way to do a group purchasing with another town that's experiencing the same thing we are, whether it's a neighboring town or another town
Possibly.
nearby?
My initial thought, sitting here today, is that's a great option for our Council of Governments to talk about and take a look at. And we can certainly reach out to them and see, if that's something they have as their purchasing consortium, because they do a lot of purchasing consortium scenarios.
And then, Councilor King, you were asking about Niederwerfer. Are you talking the dry hydrant thing?
Yes.
Okay, so that, I was gonna do it in reports on committees, so there's a special meeting tomorrow night, and that's one of the items that's on the agenda. Awesome. So I'll cover off on that a little bit.
All right, Mr. Maniscalco, I think I just have 2. The first one is, I just want to take a moment to thank the police and fire department, including the fire chief, who responded to a 9/11 call on Christmas for me at my condo. It ended up not being a problem, but everybody who responded did a great job. So it was a check on the system, and the system works. They did a great job. And then my other one was, and I'm not really looking for a give and take, but I was a little bit surprised. On page 7, there's a thing entitled Physical Security Assessments, Cybersecurity. Maybe we can talk offline. Not that anybody shared anything here that's too specific, but I was even surprised that it's in a public document to begin with. So we could talk about that.
Sure.
I think that's all for now. We are up to public comment now. Just for the public, we have a room full of people, which is great. Just a reminder that the first public comment, I'm going to read the thing that we always read before meetings, but it's only for something that's on the agenda, which I think most of the people in the audience are not here for that. So most of you are going to want to talk on item 15. The way our council meeting works, I'm guessing we're going to be there in about 15, 20 minutes. It's kind of a short meeting for us, so I'm just going to read this. The other thing is, if everybody today could try to do a good job, including the speakers, of getting really close to the microphone, because I'm probably not the only one that has trouble hearing in this room, and There's a lot of people here, and I want to make sure that you all get heard by me among other people. All right, so what we always read is, public input shall not exceed 30 minutes. When recognized by the mayor, and this is for public input on items on the agenda, when recognized by the mayor, the speaker shall approach the lectern, give their name and address. Speakers shall avoid personal attacks or impugning or alleging an improper motive to any person. The speaker may address the council on any item on the agenda. The speaker shall limit their speaking time to 5 minutes. The town council does not respond to the same meeting that you speak to us normally. And at this time, would anybody like to speak to the town council on anything that's on the agenda? And we have a couple. Okay, so this is the second one. Okay, all right, once you hold up. Is there anybody here, I know a bunch of people signed up, but is there anybody who is here to talk about something on our short agenda, which I'm guessing there probably is not? All right, so we're gonna move on. We are up to item 12B, Councilor Fitzgerald.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Resolution accepting the resignation of Mindy Lewis as an alternate member of the Economic Development Commission. Be it resolved that the South Windsor Town Council hereby accepts with regret the resignation of Mindy Lewis as an alternate member of the Economic Development Commission effective December 11th, 2025, and be it further resolved that the South Windsor Town Council extends its thanks to Mindy Lewis for the time dedicated to serving the community by membership on the Economic Development Commission.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Any questions, concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor? Aye. Let me just wait for Councilor Pendleton.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Anybody opposed? All right, passes unanimously, thank you. We are up to item 8, which is adoption of minutes of previous meetings. Councilor Cordero?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Approval of the December 1st, 2025 Town Council regular meeting minutes. Be it resolved that the South Windsor Town Council hereby approves the minutes of the regular Town Council meeting of December 1st, 2025.
Second.
All right, again, any questions, concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor? Aye. Councilor Pendleton? Thank you.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Any abstentions? That passes unanimously. Item 8B, Councilor Fitzgerald.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Approval of the December 15th, 2025 Town Council regular meeting minutes. Be it resolved that the South Windsor Town Council hereby approves the minutes of the regular Town Council meeting of December 15th, 2025.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Any questions or concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Thank you. All those opposed, passes unanimously. Item 9, communications from liaisons, officers, and boards directly responsible to the council.
So Planning and Zoning is having a special meeting tomorrow night in council chambers at 7 p.m. 2 presentations, one from Dr. Carter, or 2 sections. One, a presentation from Dr. Carter on enrollment projections for the school system. If anybody on town council has an opportunity, please attend or watch on TV, because the information she's sharing will be important to us as we get the budget cycle. And the second, they're going to be covering off the referral. They're going to be discussing the referral back to Planning and Zoning for the Niederwerfer dry hydrant. So there'll be public input section on that as well.
Councilor Ouellette, just because I was at the board's meeting where they got the presentation from the demographer, for anybody who really is looking for the detailed information, they probably should go to that board meeting. I know tomorrow Dr. Carter is going to give a little intro, but then answer questions. It's still going to be very good. I'm going to be in the audience. But if you really want the nuts and bolts, I'm sure she'll do a little of it when she comes here. But the Board of Ed meeting, it was literally a 45-minute discussion and all the details anybody would ever want to know. All right. Anyone else? Councilor Cordero, your light's on. Are you good? Okay. All right. Item 10, reports from committees. Any reports? Seeing none. Item 11, consent agenda. We don't have any. No first read. So second read, Councilor King.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move to approve 11B1 through 11B2 as a first reading on the consent agenda.
Is there a second? Second. Thank you. Any questions? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Counselor Pendleton?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Anybody opposed? Seeing none, passes unanimously. We are, let's see, 12 is unfinished business. Item A, it's a continuation of the RFP process for an appointment of a town attorney. Counselor Fitzgerald.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to revisit the discussion we had at our last meeting about going to RFP for the town attorney, since we now have well, Counselor Delnicki is not here, but we have Counselor Pendleton back, so I thought we should kind of try the minds of the body again and see what we want to do.
Okay. What we did last meeting, and I'll defer to the town manager, I think we just kind of looked for a show of hands to see if there was a majority of the people that wanted to start that process. So I guess the question is, you know, all those who are in favor of doing that, just raise your hand. Counselor Pendleton, all right, so that's 5. Anybody opposed? It's 3. All right, so it's 5-3. So we'll start that process. All right, we are up to item 13, which is a discussion item by Counselor Roulette.
All right, so it may not be a complete discussion tonight. I had requested,
Counselor Roulette, could you just do me a favor?
Sorry about that.
Because I really want to hear this. Thank you.
may not be a complete discussion. I had a request into town manager. I don't think we had enough time to complete it, but was looking for the town manager and our town attorney to assess the impacts on our ability to control residential and multi-unit housing in light of our school enrollment challenges. I asked for financial implications of growth in measured blocks of 50 or 100 units account, meaning 100 or 50 housing units, accounting for the increase in costs for public safety, public works, social services, parks and rec, and education. Do we have that?
So, yeah, so we did get your request for the information. And actually, we have our planner here, Michelle Leip, who's able to speak a little bit to some of the things. Just on a broad spectrum, before she comes up and maybe says a couple words, I think, you know, this is a bill that recently passed through the legislature at the state. Everybody's kind of been furiously trying to figure out what this actually means and what is it going to do for municipalities. Big picture, you know, we're starting to hear little bits and rumbles come out of our council of governments because that's where it's going to really funnel through and then to the towns. But we haven't really received a ton of information yet. So, Michelle, I don't know if you have a little bit of additional information to maybe help kind of shed some light as to some of the other things that might get us some answers to Councilor Ouellette's questions as well.
Sure, thank you. Michelle Leip, Director of Planning. Yeah, as the town manager indicated, it's still being processed, the results of the new law. I had one session that I went to a couple weeks ago. I have another session in person coming up in the middle of January, sponsored by the state planning organization as well as CROG and some other folks. Their intent is to give us guiding documents for towns based on all the many aspects of the law. And what they really are, I keep pushing them, can I get some information? They're really trying to put it all at once, so we're all hearing it at once, so we're not interpreting it differently. So I do anticipate a pretty thorough document coming from the Capital Region Council of Governments. They're telling me about mid-January. They're also going to put out a secondary document a little bit more local to our communities. But just kind of big picture, some of the questions that you had, I just wanted to make just kind of a comment on housing in general. As many of you may or may not recall, about 2-3 years ago, we put a stop to all housing for a year. And we did an assessment of our town and our regulations and whatnot. And we came out with some new regulations. You can't just stop housing. We have some as-of-right housing like subdivisions, and those are based on 1-acre zoning, half-acre zoning, that kind of stuff. Subdivisions can happen. We don't always know where or when. We don't have a lot of land left, but it would have to be, as you know, developed under existing zoning. Things like existing zoning we've put in place, like our town center zoning and our Buckland Road zoning. You know, some of those have some housing possibilities in it. Town center is a good example. If we see intensification of housing in town center, and I'm talking about the Stop and Shop kind of triangular area there, it's a 2-to-1 ratio of housing to commercial. So it's not a straight housing kind of project that can be proposed there. It would have to have some commercial associated with it. We don't have a lot of land technically in the town center area that's new, that's not development. So that's really more of a redevelopment kind of scenario. And we are seeing some interest in that. That's really the extent of, as of right, multifamily housing that we really have out there, and that's an overlay zone. Any other multifamily housing is going to occur through a zone change application to the planning and zoning, where they're going to evaluate the implications of it as it goes on, or through a text amendment where they add some kind of housing to the regulations. So those we being the planning and zoning, have control over whether or not they want to add those things or not. So I just want to make it clear that, we have some areas in town where, yeah, we've kind of driven density if it's going to occur. The outlying areas are totally, in our single-family zones, it's going to really be up to a commission to decide they want to see a denser type of, and I will tell you that I get calls all the time about people, I had 2 of them today, looking to where can I put condominiums or where can I put housing. I guess the only other comment I'll make is, we did approve a Geisler's, a general plan for that. It still needs another phase. Those are 125 units that have been talked about for many years, have not come into fruition. We have 165 units approved behind the, in Evergreen Walk, behind the existing apartments there. We hope to see construction this spring on those. I don't know for sure. So those are about 300 units that are kind of approved but not moving forward. I can tell you the 55 units that are on Deming Street, we do have building permits in for those. Those are 55 units. I think about 25% of them are for a special population. So although they're not age restricted or whatnot, there will be a limitation in the number of children generated just based on the population use. So that's kind of the existing housing. As far as the cost, those are things that certainly, developers come in when they're trying to justify their housing. They give us some methodology of how they're coming up with the costs, and those are certainly things that we can look at with our finance director and, looking at breaking it down by 50 and 100 units. And then I know your last question was, what happens if we don't go along with it? The 830G, I'm going to refer to the town attorney about, but the new legislation, my take on what I'm reading, it's really all about if you are willing to put this in place, you can qualify for these kinds of grants or this potential funding. Things like infrastructure, water, sewer upgrades, or maybe a higher reimbursement at your school rate. So again, they seem to have written it to be a lot of carrots in it, and I don't see the sticks yet. And I'm not sure if that's to be developed still as time goes on. But the other thing too, I just will comment is we're looking out here a little ways. I mean, the plan for South Windsor would be 2028. June of 2028 is when we have to have a municipal growth plan. So we do have some time. They're kind of going to tell us what we need to do, what we need to look at the regional level, at the local level, and we can do some parallel analysis and see what kind of growth plan is most appropriate for us. So I don't want to get too much more into it because, we'll get into the weeds, but we will have much more information coming, and certainly we'll share with the council, and obviously planning and zoning will have some work to do to address some regulation changes, related to parking and some middle housing stuff that there will come out in the law. So
Excellent.
with
And
that,
if you could, when you're at the meeting with CROG and the other cities that are peers of ours, I would be interested to hear what the discussion is about Easton's response citing home rule, and whether also from town attorney, whether that is a viable option for us. Should we get into a position where we just can't put the kids anywhere because there's no more room in our school system? So, thank you.
Certainly keep my ears open for that.
Anyone else? Okay, more to come. All right, item 13C, resolution approving the fiscal year 2026-27 budget calendar. Deputy Mayor Paterna.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a resolution approving the fiscal year 26-27 budget calendar. Be it resolved that the South Windsor Town Council hereby approves the fiscal year 2026-2027 budget calendar as more fully described in Exhibit C. And you have all the dates listed in Exhibit C.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions, concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor, aye?
Aye.
All right, anybody opposed? Any abstentions? Passes unanimously. Thank you. Item 13D, Councilor Balboni.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Resolution approving refund batch number 10 for 12 refunds totaling $4,579.98. Be resolved, the South Windsor Town Council hereby approves 12 tax refunds, the total of said refunds being $4,579.98, as more fully described in Exhibit D.
Is there a second? Thank you. All those in favor? Aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? Any abstentions? Passes unanimously. Thank you. Item 14 is passes of ordinances. There isn't any. So we're up to item 15, public input on any matter. And I apologize in advance. I'm going to read off some names. I'm probably going to mess some of them up. All right, I'm just going to read this again.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor, just before you start public input, you do have a statement you need to read and that you typically read about public input, associated rules. I know you did it earlier, but.
Right, I'm going to read it.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
All right, so public input shall not exceed 30 minutes. When recognized by the mayor, the speaker shall approach the lectern, give their name and address. The speaker shall avoid personal attacks or impugning or alleging an improper motive to any person. The speaker may address the council on any matter. The speaker shall limit their speaking time to 5 minutes. Mrs. Seneth will keep track. You should see it up there. When you get close to 5, I'll probably just tell you, if you could try to wrap it up. The town council does not usually respond at the same meeting you speak to us. And I know there are people, and the first person is the Deputy Mayor, Andy Paterno.
Mr. Mayor, I'm speaking today as the former chair of the Charter Revision Commission, and I just want you to know that my granddaughters have a nickname for me, and they call me TC, and I thought, well, that was cute because I'm on the town council. No, they said because you're technologically challenged. So I've got my fingers crossed that this is going to work. Okay, so before I start it, let me just say that it's important that we see the context of things when we have discussions. And there are many people in town who don't have all the information. And one of the contextual items that's so important is what the intention was of the Charter Revision Commission. And as you can see in a few minutes, this was a bipartisan, full agreement by all members of the council that the new charter, all the changes would take effect in 2027. So this is a video first of the meeting, if it works right. See, where's my technology help? Why are we not seeing the picture? Anybody help me? Or IT? We're hearing voices. What?
Is it off the screen somewhere? Well, no, that's just audio.
Yeah.
Where's your video?
Here?
I don't know. I didn't put it on here.
My granddaughters were right, as you can see. They know what they're talking about.
Mrs. Senator.
You're moving your mouse way too fast.
Kathy?
Yeah.
Kathy? Right here. While they're playing with that, can you reset the clock to 4 minutes?
Here we go. Come on. There you go. All right.
You want to say, as, you know, as of, after the 2027 election, no political party shall nominate. Right. And no elector shall. So we can do that. Do you know where I am? Yeah. Are you in that first paragraph? Yeah. See where it says no political party? Right before that, we would put at the 2027 election.
Oh, that makes sense.
Right.
Then it addresses the thing that they're.
Assuming
Yeah.
assuming the referendum was this November.
Passes.
And it passes, then it would go to 27 until the
Right.
the election.
Exactly. So, Andy, that's a good idea. So that kind of just clarifies.
Yeah.
And it kind of shows the history as
It matches
well
our-
as to when,
right.
when it's being changed.
So somebody 50 years from now is going to say, oh, when did they change that 5? Oh, yeah, 27. That's the first time you had 5 people who could be nominated instead
Yeah.
of 6. So these are both all Republican UCP members, unaffiliated voters. One of the members is my colleague and friend Steve Cordero, who at that time was chair of the Republican Party, and all of us agreed that these changes would be implemented for the 2027 election. And then it's reflected in our minutes, which is not going to show, but if of that meeting, it's reflected in our minutes that in 2027, these changes would take effect.
After the 2027 election, no political party shall nominate. And no elector shall. So we can do that. You know where I am? Are you in that first paragraph? Yeah. See where it says no political party? Right before that, we would put after.
So this was a bipartisan agreement. It was we met for 16 months. There was never a disagreement about when this new charter revision, when they would take effect. All of us agree that 2027 was the target date. Now, so that's across political lines. This is not about politics. This is about people's votes. Because people came to the polls to vote for 6 members of the council. That's what they were told. That's what was on the ballot. Now, on top of that, if you do say we're going to implement this new charter in 2025, well, the new charter says there's no town treasurer. The new charter says there are no selectmen. And yet we swore in a town treasurer. And we swore in selectmen. So you can't now say you're going to selectively select which part of the charter is in effect today as opposed to 2027. So I want us to have that context, to understand this is not a disagreement about political parties. This is a disagreement about votes and what their expectations were when they came to the polls. Otherwise, the political parties would have nominated 5 people to begin with instead of 6. So I think this context is important because there's too much misinformation going on and being circulated.
If you could just try to finish up, I'm going to try to be consistent.
Okay, that's my time. I'm fine to finish and just want you to see what the truth is about what this commission, bipartisan commission, what they worked on and what their expectations were. Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Okay, the next speaker is Harrison Amadison.
My name is Harrison Madison. I live at 1475 Ellington Road in South Windsor. All members of the Charter Review Commission, including sitting members of this town council from both sides of the aisle, knew and understood that the effective date of the charter revisions, if approved, was November 2027. That understanding was clear, it was shared, and it was intentional. We've all now seen the video. On November 4th, voters went to the polls and lawfully chose their representatives, including me, under the rules that were in effect that day. Then on November 5th, without a public hearing, without town council approval, the town manager and town attorney advised the town clerk to apply those charter revisions retroactively and selectively. That decision changed the rules after the voters have already spoken. So I ask this town council plainly and respectfully, why was the effective date altered after the election? Who authorized those changes? And why were voters and this town council excluded from a decision that directly affected the outcome of a democratic process? Voters expect accountability. Voters expect transparency. And above all, they expect respect for their votes. When decisions are made behind closed doors, decisions that alter the meaning of an election, trust is broken. And restoring that trust requires clear answers. We are here this evening because the voters are demanding answers. We need your help, councillors, to unveil the truth. Thank you.
Okay, Corey Betts.
Good evening. Good evening, good evening. My name is Corey Betts, and I am president of the Greater Hartford branch of the NAACP, and I'm also first vice for the state conference of the NAACP. And I'm here tonight because the NAACP has always stood on one core principle. The right to vote is sacred, and the will of our voters must be respected. From the earliest battles against poll taxes and literacy tests to modern-day voter suppression, our organization has consistently defended the integrity of election and the voices of everyday people. What is not in dispute here is simple. On election day, the voters of South Windsor cast their ballots. Those ballots were counted, and the result was clear. The concern arises from what happened after the election, when, without public notice, council approval, or transparency, charter provisions were applied retroactively in a way that nullified thousands of valid votes. Regardless of the party or personality, that should give every resident pause. This is not about political gain. This is about process, precedent, and public trust. When unelected officials can reinterpret rules after the election has concluded, it undermines confidence in the entire democratic system, particularly for communities who have historically had to fight just to be heard at the ballot. I also want to acknowledge Attorney John Kennelly, whose legal work and advocacy reflect a commitment to due process, fairness, and the rule of law. In moments like this, attorneys who are willing to scrutinize government actions and raise hard constitutional questions play a vital role in preserving democratic norms. That work deserves respect and support. Courts may address procedures, but the civic and moral question remains. Do we honor elections as they are decided by voters or allow outcomes to be reshaped after the fact? The NAACP believes democracy must be transparent, accountable, and rooted in consent of the governed. The people did their part, institutions must do their part. People trusted the process and cast their votes in good faith in honoring those voters those votes is not a political favor. It is the most basic promise a democracy can make. Thank you.
State Senator Saud Anwar.
Good evening. My name is Saud Anwar, resident of 93 Rockledge Drive, right here in South Windsor. Honorable Mayor Zimmerman, Deputy Mayor Paterna, and honorable members of the Town Council. I'm here to speak about the situation that we are in with Councillor Amadusin. And I want you to understand that with respect to the charter revision, the intent has been clearly defined, that the intent was not for it to be retrospective. When the charter was presented to the people of the town of South Windsor, it was clear that it was not going to be retroactive. It was going to be prospective. Any of these policies are prospective. They do not go back in time. And the timeline was clearly mentioned as well. And that day, 3,847 people in the state of Connecticut, in the town of South Windsor, spoke where their votes were, where their support was. It was very clear. And also, unfortunately, the town decision that was made was somewhat selective to the point that Deputy Mayor has alluded to. Now, the moral question, the voter question, the intent questions are very clear. And when these questions will be discussed in any place in a court of law, the decision would be relatively clear. But I just want to say a few things. Let's for a second look at it that there was no malintention from anyone to get us to the point where we are at right now. The question comes is that if that was not intended to be done wrongfully, where do we go from here? And that opportunity we should look at. Clearly, there are few opportunities to go. We said, okay, perhaps the town can do one thing is that they dig their heels and fight the battle and then see where it lands us. And it's clear sooner or later it's going to land where I just alluded to, where it should and it would and it must land. But another way we can approach this is that there should be a conversation internally with the party leaders as well, because I know the Republican Party in my town as well, and they are not going to be in the interest, they will not be interested to do that is wrong either. So everybody wants to do the right thing. And the right thing at this time is to have the majority, just like what the people have decided, to move in that direction. And recognize a mistake was made. People can make honest mistakes. And this would be an opportunity to go back and say, honest mistake was made, no foul, let's go back. Somebody steps down from that position. Another person can step into that position and take the oath. And then we move on with the work that's so much needed in this town right now and so much work that can be done. And that would actually make everybody be respected and loved, cared for in their own parties and collectively too. Because the town and the community and the issues are far more important than anything else. And most importantly, the voice of the people. So I'm here to just talk about the future and what would that path look like. And then we have two different paths that we can take. And I would urge us to take the path which would be bringing us all together, making us closer to each other, and be respectful. And we've worked 6-3 on both sides. The fascinating part about our town is we just don't do halfway things. We just do 6 and 3, which is why the charter was revised for a future plan. So again, it's something that perhaps in an executive session the council can look at and then see how you can work on it. I know everybody comes here as a volunteer to do the best that they can for the community, because you are all volunteers. And as volunteers, we want to thank you for volunteering, but this is an opportunity for bringing the town together, and this would not happen just by the mayor alone. It will take all the people who are virtually and physically here to do this. So I would urge you as leaders to show that leadership and bring people together. Thank you so much for this opportunity. Thank you.
Daria Plummer.
Good evening. Now, that's a tough one to follow. In all honesty, whatever Senator Anwar has said and whatever we've seen, that could actually be the end of this discussion right now. Let's do the right thing. Mayor Zimmerman, Deputy Mayor Paterna, members of the Town Council, good evening. I'm Daria Plummer, 235 Orchard Hill Drive. I have said over and over again, how was the average voter to know that this was going to happen? We voted honestly for those we wanted to get elected. No matter what party you were with, you voted for your 6 or you voted for up to 6. And somehow, if there was a memo about this was not going to go into effect, I voted for 6 of my party, and they won. Where was I to know that? Where was it written? I'd like to consider myself an educated voter. I read about everything. I even get the newspapers. But I've read everything about the 4 referenda and all 50 charter changes. In fact, I misplaced it. I had to come back and get another copy so I could make sure I had refreshed my memory when I went to vote. I even attended public hearings on the charter revision. And nowhere did it say for the voter that we weren't going to elect 6 people. If 6 were elected, no matter which party, this time, we weren't going to do it. It was going to go down to 5. How was the average person to know? Where was it printed? This was a mistake. It was an oversight. And I don't believe, as Senator Anwar has said, how can you implement half of the charter changes and not all of the charter changes? We just seem to have made ourselves into this little moving pool that we really don't want to be in. I also will say that I was there the night of the election night when members of both parties came over to Democratic headquarters and congratulated all 6 members of the council. They thought that they had won. All 6 of them, they thought that all 6 Democrats had won. Somewhere, somebody has made an error someplace, and I think we need to move on. To really be honest about it, we're in a mess, and it's a shame, and we shouldn't be here. I would like to say, if there's anybody here who can raise his or her hand to say, I knew about it and I saw it in print, would you do so now? I think you have your answer. Not one hand went up. Somewhere, this is a huge mistake, and honestly, we have far better things to do for our community. We're in a mess. It's a shame. We shouldn't be here. Thank you very much.
And again, I apologize if I get some of the titles wrong, but now we have State Rep Jillian Gilchrist.
Good evening, Mayor Zimmerman, Deputy Mayor Paterna, and members of the council. I'm Jillian Gilchrist, state representative out of West Hartford and candidate for Congress in Connecticut's 1st Congressional District. Want to give well wishes to Town Councilor Liz Pendleton, wishing her good health and looking forward to when she can return. I am here tonight to support the voters of South Windsor, who elected Harrison Amadasan to represent them on the Town Council. On Election Day, South Windsor voters elected 6 Democrats and 3 Republicans to the Town Council and approved charter changes. The next day, unelected town officials nullified the election, retroactively rewriting the rules. Unfortunately, we're seeing this type of behavior across the country. When someone doesn't like the outcome of an election, they attempt to rewrite the rules. We're here to say no. You can't do that. You must listen to the voices of your community and honor the vote. Many people in this room know that running for office to serve your community is a unique experience for every single person. Sure, there are certain strategies like door knocking that are known to bring about certain outcomes. But I'm speaking to the experience of making that decision to run, or even thinking you have a right to run in the first place. The barriers to get your name on the ballot can be steep, and they are most certainly made steeper as the result of one's sex, race, or socioeconomic background. So to get your name on the ballot, to run an entire campaign, to get elected by your community by nearly 1,000 votes, and then to have that snatched away? No. Our democracy doesn't work that way. We won't let it. I stand with Dr. Harrison Amadasan and the voters of South Windsor. I ask you to honor the vote. Thank you.
State Senator Matt Lesser.
Good evening, Mayor Zimmerman and members of the council. I, too, want to rise and echo actually the remarks heard earlier from Deputy Mayor Paterna in support of Dr. Ahmedson and the South Windsor voters. And I just want to be clear that you have within your power the ability to rectify this injustice and respectfully urge the town to consider dropping your opposition in the state Supreme Court to the appeal in the Ahmedson versus Armstrong case. You know, for years I introduced repeatedly the Connecticut Voting Rights Act in the General Assembly with the support of the NAACP Legal Defense Fund, which ultimately passed into law in 2023. And the idea there was that democratic safeguards should apply uniformly and consistently in all 169 Connecticut towns. You know, I've watched this situation closely, as have many of my colleagues from around the state. And I think this is an example of why we need strong statewide protections and safeguards to ensure that votes are counted and that elections are conducted uniformly. As you all heard during the presentation earlier on March 12th, the Charter Revision Commission members explicitly discussed this question and whether or not the change should take place in 2027, and it was unanimously agreed that they should. It seems to me that this is a matter of fundamental fairness, whether a scrivener's error should deprive the voters of South Windsor of their choice for town council. And you have the opportunity to rectify the situation. I urge that you look at that closely. This seems to be a question of right and wrong and whether we have a consistent, strong democracy in this town and in this state. Thank you.
Anita Alonga.
I'd like to thank Mayor Zimmerman, Deputy Mayor Paterna, and all the council members for giving me this opportunity to talk. I live in 108 Lisa Drive, South Windsor, and my name is Anita Elango. I just want to be clear. I have to also say that I'm the current DTC chairperson, and I just want to be clear that this is not about any one candidate or party. I think many others have said this, and I would like to reiterate that. It's not about politics, it's about principle. And that's why we are appealing Judge Susan Cobb's decision at the Connecticut Supreme Court. Democracy only works when lawful votes are counted, respected, and trusted. The video that we just watched confirms what was already clear The Charter Revision Commission intended the electoral changes to take effect in 2027. The Bipartisan Commission intended the charter revisions to apply prospectively, not retroactively, to disenfranchised voters who followed the rules on election day. It was intended to apply to the next municipal election. At the time these ballots were cast, the rules were clear, legal, and fully compliant with both the town charter and state law. The members of the Charter Revision Commission, whom I'd like to thank for their hard work, we have to be clear. They are not legal experts. They're not experts in legalese. And there was someone else in charge of making sure that the language that was presented to the voters was clear. This is why it's really troubling that the town attorney who approved the final charter language failed to ensure that the correct effective date was clearly established. So it seems to me that unelected municipal officials retroactively changed the rules after the election, nullifying lawful votes. And as we've heard from other people who came here to express their opinion, so we have a town treasurer who's signing checks. She doesn't exist in the current charter if it's applied the way it was supposed to apply. And then we have selectmen who are presumably walking the periphery of the town to make sure the borders are secure. They were voted in, and they were also sworn in. So we have selectmen, but we don't have a councillor who was also voted in and who was not sworn in, right? So even if this was just, an error or in judgment in applying this charter retroactively, why did we apply these two alone and leave out the councillor? Was it the intent that the only position that held any power in the town council was eliminated by retroactive application of the charter, and then the others who have a more figurehead role were kept in this, were sworn in? So it's very confusing, and it's, we can't change the rules after an election and call the result legitimate. The town council, as a result, is not properly constituted, placing the validity of its actions in question. Now, we could make a case that if we didn't swear in the treasurer and the selectmen, then we could say, okay, we applied the charter uniformly and everything is perfectly, fine, but that's not what it is right now. So how do we, know that any council decision is actually legal when it should have been made by a 6-3 and not a 5-4 council? This case defends the rights of every South Windsor voter, Republican, Democrat, unaffiliated or otherwise, who expects their vote to count. And when democracy is under attack, we must act, because voting rights are threatened anywhere. If they're threatened anywhere, then they're threatened everywhere. I'd like to thank everyone for giving me this opportunity.
Linda, is it Blacksley? Sorry.
Hello, my name is Linda Blakesley, and I live at 27 Barry Avenue in Coventry, Connecticut. For the record, I am an unaffiliated voter. Tonight, I am in affiliation with Dr. Harrison Amundson, councilman-elect, and in solidarity with the Democrats in South Windsor. On November 4th, 2025, the voters of South Windsor cast 3,847 votes for Dr. Harrison Amundson. He received the 6th most votes of the Democrats and should have been sworn into his seat on town council. However, the following day, the town clerk, Ms. Bonnie Armstrong, incorrectly interpreted the revision as to be effective retroactively and refused to swear in Dr. Amundson, opting instead to swear in Mr. Richard Balboni, a Republican, who received 2,937 votes, which amount to 910 fewer votes than Dr. Amundson. It should be noted that Mr. Balboni only received the 10th most votes out of all the people on the ballot, fewer than every other Democrat. The decision to refuse Dr. Amundson his elected seat on town council has serious implications and potential consequences and should be reversed immediately. These include, this sets a very dangerous precedent for future elections in South Windsor and in any of the other 168 towns in Connecticut. The fact that an unelected official took The liberty to decide how to apply and which parts of the charter to apply leaves room for bias and preference. How else will this liberty be used or abused in the future? We are watching you, South Windsor. Also, nearly 4,000 voters in South Windsor have been disenfranchised by this decision. This message, your vote doesn't count. Additionally, for purposes of context, I wish to speak to the optics of this decision. South Windsor is a majority racially white town, although its diversity has increased over the years. The fact that the decision was made to interpret the charter in a way that favors a white man over a black man also sends a message to the black and brown people in this town that their voice will be suppressed, which further marginalizes and disenfranchises a population that already experiences the impact of racism every day. Dr. Amundson, Councilman-elect, must be sworn into his seat immediately to reverse the chicanery that has been done by Ms. Armstrong in her interpretation of the newly revised charter. Will South Windsor uphold the will of the people, or will South Windsor bypass the democratic process? The people have spoken with their votes, and it must be upheld. Thank you.
Mrs. Seneth, we have two more speakers that have signed up. I'm guessing there may be a few more people in the audience. I'm also guessing that we probably hit the 30-minute mark. All right. So at this point, I guess I would look to see if there's a motion to extend and for how long.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to extend the recent input for 15 more minutes.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
All right. Any conversation or all those in favor? Aye?
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? All right. Now we have former Mayor Luke Bronin.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much, Mayor Zimmerman, Deputy Mayor Paterna, members of the council. I want to begin also by extending my best wishes to Councilwoman Pendleton and wish for her speedy recovery and speedy return to the dais where she belongs. As Mayor said, I'm the former mayor of Hartford. I'm also an attorney, was the general counsel to our prior governor, and have been deeply involved in Charter Revision Commission processes. As a neighbor and friend of South Windsor, and also as a citizen of Connecticut, who, like everyone in this room and everyone beyond this room, has a stake in a democracy that functions, that honors the will of the voters, and that follows the rule of law, I am proud to be here tonight to support Dr. Madison, should be Councilor Madison, and all those who have spoken tonight. The decision, and with all respect, the decision by unelected officials to retroactively apply the charter changes flies in the face of common practice. It flies in the face of common sense. And as we've seen from the video that Deputy Mayor Paterna showed, it also flies in the face of the clear intent of the Council Revision Commission. I watched that video this morning, and earlier today, and saw it again tonight. And I think anybody who came to this question with any doubts about the merits should have no doubts after seeing that video. The intent of the commission was clear. And there was nothing at any point in the process that suggested that there was any other intent that should supersede the intent of that commission. It's also important to recognize that had the voters known that the charter would be applied retroactively, they may well have voted differently. It's not just a theoretical question. If you have 6 Democrats on the council, but you know that only 5 will be elected, you're going to use your 6th vote differently. And so the failure to communicate this change, if it had been a valid change to voters, that in itself would have disenfranchised voters. But to leave them with the impression that they're voting under the charter into effect, and then to retroactively change it, is a clear disenfranchisement. I want to echo something that Senator Lesser said as well, which is that this town has the option available to resolve this. One option would have been to allow the case to reach its merits in the courts, rather than to oppose it and seek its dismissal on a technicality, to actually let the courts get to the merits that would have been so clearly settled by that video. That decision wasn't made, but the decision could be made to stop fighting the appeal and to let the case get to its merits, or to simply come to a resolution here. And I want to close by saying, I think like many people here, I commend the spirit that motivated this charter change. It was a spirit of collaboration and of partnership and of bipartisanship and of trying to avoid polarization and partisan divide. And what a tragedy and what an unnecessary outcome that a wrong decision, made in good faith or not, should take what should have been a measure that brought a community together and instead make it a wedge that drives a community apart. I hope, for the sake of this town that I care for as a friend and a neighbor, and for the sake of our democracy here in Connecticut, that this town finds a way to resolve this in a way that honors both the intent of the Charter Revision Commission and the very clear intent of the voters. Thank you.
Ruth Fortune.
Good evening, Mayor Zimmerman, Deputy Mayor Paterna, and esteemed council members. I'm here because democracy was not merely bent, it was overridden here in South Windsor. My name is Ruth Fortune, and I reside in Hartford, Connecticut. I stand today with Dr. Harrison Madison and the 3,847 South Windsor residents who voted for him. I serve on the Hartford Board of Education, and like Dr. Madison, I am a proud immigrant who serves in public office because I believe in the promise of America. The town clerk, in her incorrect, retroactive, and selective application of the municipal charter revisions, has singularly installed a member of this council who cannot claim legitimacy, not while he's standing on the backs of silenced voters who received 910 fewer votes than Dr. Madison. This is not governance, this is a power grab. Democracy is not who wins once the lawyers arrive. Democracy is not the outcome we can justify later. Democracy is counting the votes as they were cast, period. It is not lost on those of us who are watching from across Connecticut how closely this power grab mirrors what we are seeing out of Washington, D.C. The few feel empowered to disregard the rules, reinterpret outcomes, and retroactively change the process to secure the result they prefer. What's happening here may be local, but when democratic norms are violated in local elections, the damage doesn't stay local. It weakens trust, invites abuse, and sends a dangerous signal that democracy is optional rather than sacred. Dr. Harrison Madison did not pick this fight, but he will finish it. Not for attention, not for power, but because when fairness and democracy are on the line, walking away is not an option. History shows it again and again. Immigrants don't shy away when things get hard. We rise, we persist, and we see it through, because immigrants get the job done. I urge you to do all that you can to ensure that Dr. Madison takes his rightful seat as Councilor Madison. Thank you.
So that's the end of the list. Is there anybody else who'd like to speak? Right in the back. Come on up. No. Next to Mrs. Snyder. Dan. All right. Why don't you be second, Dan?
Good evening, everyone. Thank you to the Town Council for being here. My name is Sohail Lokhandwala. I'm a resident of South Windsor at 139 Fraser Fur Road. I've been a resident pretty much since 5th grade, so pretty much all of my childhood. Yeah, and you know, this is the first time I've ever made a public comment on anything like this, but you know, I feel, as just a normal resident, I feel that our democracy was violated. I find democracy to be a very important principle in the U.S. generally, and to see that Mr. Amadison, that Dr. Amadison got nearly 910 more votes than Mr. Balboni here, and for the charter to be retroactively revised in a way that feels quite honestly very disingenuous to your average voter. Yeah, I definitely think that is something that as a town we need to combat. So thank you so much.
All right, I'm gonna go to Mr. Edwards, and then I'll go to Representative Khan, and then I think the 15 minutes is up, and we'll see if there's a vote to extend.
Hello, Dan Edwards, 131 Hilton Drive. I'm disappointed by recent Democratic Party posts blaming the MAGA movement for the court's ruling. For the record, the charter revision was a Democrat initiative that I disagreed with at its formation. I was not the only one. There was Republican, Democrat, and United Community Party opposition, but with a 5-member majority at the time, it still passed. Facts matter. Unlike other charter changes, this revision contained no effective date, an obvious error by the Town Charter Commission. Additionally, what was discussed during town charter revision planning meetings was not fully reflected in what was ultimately presented to the public. Once the Charter Commission forwarded the revision to the Town Council and it was approved, ownership transferred to the Council. What was sent to voters carried the approval and endorsements of the Town Manager and the Town Attorney. If Democratic Town Councilors now take issue with this outcome, accountability should be directed at the Town Manager and the Town Attorney, not shifted to political opponents or the public. This matter was reviewed and decided by the courts, making it unclear to many in town why this continues to be debated during a town council meeting. To preserve transparency, though, and public trust, any town councilors who served on the Charter Review Commission and currently sit on the town council should recuse themselves from further discussion on this matter. Thank you.
Representative Khan.
Good evening. Thank you for allowing me to speak. I wasn't planning to speak, but I just wanted to bring up a couple points as I'm sitting here and listening to all the comments. I have the pleasure of representing a portion of South Windsor in the General Assembly for the last 3.5 years. I've heard from multiple constituents in the last, since the November election about their concerns for what's going on and what's being discussed today. My main concern right now, I think especially remains voter confidence and what this means for our democracy and for the people of South Windsor. So when rules can change after the fact, and I know that earlier there was a question that was asked on if there was anybody in the room that was clear about that the rule was going to be applied retroactively, and at that moment nobody had raised their hand. So when rules can be changed after the fact, and the general understanding in town for people that are voting is eroded, or their trust is eroded by that decision, it impacts every future election, especially in this town. And once that confidence is lost, the concern for me, especially right now, and for all of us, should be that that confidence is extremely difficult to rebuild in the future, which would affect your civic engagement, which would affect the health of your democracy in this town. So to those that do have the ability to correct this error, I think that it's important to act with transparency, act consistently, and with the voter confidence as your top priority. And so to ensure that, especially what this means for South Windsor and South Windsor's democracy going forward. Thank you.
Can I just see a show of hands if there's anybody else that wanted to speak to the council? So 2 people? Can I get? Jan Snyder would be 3? Yeah. Well, wait a minute. Can you just hold up? You gotta hold up.
Can I speak?
Can I get a a motion to allow, I think it's 3 people, I think it's the 2 that just raised their hands. And if somebody can get Mrs. Snyder, who didn't think we were gonna do this. Is it just those 3? All right, will somebody make that motion?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to add an additional 3 to 4 people if a 4th one comes in from the lobby for this speaking time.
Is there a second? All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, anybody opposed? All right, I think the gentleman in the second row was first, and then we'll go to
Lisa Cox.
What?
That's Lisa Cox.
Thank you. My name's Steve Glidden, 2837 Ellington Road. Like the other gentleman that spoke, I've never been to a town council meeting. I've lived in South Windsor since 2007. I've voted in every time, for every vote, every primary. I have tried to instill in my daughter voting as soon as she turned 18, and then every vote. And she had it in her mind that it didn't matter. What does one matter? And this time, she sent me this. What happened? I voted for this gentleman. I didn't even see the news. She sent it to me and said, see. So I do feel that I need to be here. And I know, Deputy Mayor, you said we need to respect each other, but I do feel disrespected as a voter. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Copper?
My name is Lisa Copper. I live at 1 Autumn Drive, and I simply want to reiterate what other people have said. My husband and I both read the information put out by the town that said the change in the charter would mean that in the future, only 5 people would be nominated for the positions, and then only 5 people could be voted for, and that the positions of selectman and treasurer would be eliminated. So we assumed that this would be for the 2027 election. And we were quite surprised, and might say kind of shocked, when that didn't happen. So I'm just saying what people have said, that what we understood was that it would be for the next election because the qualifications that were set up in the charter, 5 people being nominated, 5 people being voted for, was going to be the standard instead of the 6 that were under the old charter.
Is that it? We have time for one other person? If not, we're going to move on. All right. Thank you very much. All right, and we're not done yet because we're going to, in a minute or two, read a couple into the record. So we're on item 16, which is communications from the council. Does anybody have any communication? I'm going to turn to Councilor Lett to read one of the letters, and then Councilor Fitzgerald.
This is an email sent from Brenda Viteri on Monday, December 1st. Subject for the town council message. I'm a resident of South Windsor who voted in the November election. I was very disappointed to learn that unelected town officials have a right to negate my vote after the fact. Clearly, as of the time I voted, the majority on the town council was 6. The revisions to the town charter were not approved until after the election. If the intent was for the charter to be retroactive, it should have been stayed and the rest of the election postponed until the charter had been established. I would have voted differently if that was the case.
Thank you very much. Councilor Fitzgerald.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a letter from Congressman John Larson to the residents of South Windsor and members of the South Windsor Town Council. I am writing to express my strong support for the residents of South Windsor who are standing up to defend the fundamental right to vote and the integrity of their local democracy following the November 4th, 2025 municipal election. Elections are the cornerstone of our democracy. The rules governing those elections must be clear, transparent, and applied fairly, and they must never be rewritten after voters have cast their ballots. When that principle is violated, public trust is eroded and confidence in government is undermined. On November 4th, 2025, South Windsor voters elected a town council and approved charter revisions that, according to the public record and the contemporaneous understanding of those involved, were intended to take effect in 2027. That intent was not ambiguous. It was discussed openly, reflected in meeting materials, and understood across party lines. In fact, a publicly available video recording of the Charter Revision Commission meeting from March 12th, including remarks from then-Chair Andy Paterna and bipartisan members of the commission, demonstrates clear legislative intent that the charter changes would be implemented beginning in 2027 if approved by voters. That understanding is further confirmed by the commission's subsequently approved meeting minutes, which also references 2027 as the implementation date. Despite this clear record, the decision made after the election to apply the charter revisions retroactively without public discussion or approval by the town council had the effect of overturning the will of the voters and disenfranchising thousands of South Windsor residents. Regardless of party or ideology, no voter should ever feel their ballot can be nullified after Election Day by administrative action that contradicts both voter understanding and the documented intent of those who drafted the measure. Democracy depends on rules being honored as they exist when votes are cast, not reinterpreted once election results are known. I commend the residents of South Windsor who are peacefully and lawfully advocating for transparency, accountability, and respect for the democratic process. Their engagement reflects the best traditions of civic participation and reinforces the principle that government must remain accountable to the people it serves. As the appeal in Amadison v. Armstrong proceeds, I urge all involved to remember that this matter extends beyond any single council seat. It speaks to the broader obligation we all share to protect the integrity of elections and to ensure that voters can trust that their voices will be respected. I stand with the voters of South Windsor in their call for fairness, clarity, and fidelity to democratic norms. Sincerely, John B. Larson.
All right, any other communication from the council? Seeing none, item 17 is executive session. We don't have one. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All right, all those in favor? Aye?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Thank you.